is to provide some tips and strategies on how to administer the Tier 3 entry ticket. Clicking on the appropriate grade, you will be taken to that grade's homepage where you will see the scope and sequence for the year for math topics. You will notice that Tier 3 is the dark gray band, so it's in throughout the entire page here, and that the topics that occur for Tier 3 occur prior to us actually teaching grade level curriculum to the whole class. So for example, fractional reasoning here occurs on week 1, but we're not actually going to address it at grade level with the whole class until week 8. And the reason for that is because the purpose of Tier 3 is to address any missed learning opportunities from previous grades, to provide those students with 6 weeks of some small group intervention where we can really try and support them on this particular topic and build up their understanding before they're exposed to grade level curriculum. So clicking on this topic will take you to the Tier 3 page for that topic, where there is a link to the entry and exit ticket, as well as to the tracking sheet and problem sets. There is a separate tutorial that works through how to use the tracking sheet and problem sets, but we're just going to focus on the entry and exit ticket. So when you click on that, you will notice that a slide deck opens. You can make your own copy of this slide deck if you wish. Any slides that have a gray background are for teacher use only. It is not something that you would project to students. You will see there's a slide that provides you with some instructions on what to think about as you administer this particular entry ticket on this particular topic. We do, even though this is Tier 3, we do administer this entry ticket to all students in the class, not just students who have a math IEP, because we want to see where students' level of understanding is on previous grade level curriculum for this topic and see who would benefit best from having some small group withdrawal support. If you feel students require any accommodations on this, by all means, go ahead and use those accommodations, such as scribing or a quiet space. If you will notice, the entry ticket has 3 columns. So we're using parallel tasks, so students have an entry into the problem. There is a mild column, a medium column, and a hot column. If looking at this particular entry ticket, you feel this would be overwhelming for some of your students in the beginning until they get used to the format of it, by all means, fold the paper so that they can only see one row at a time. We do recommend that all students do 1 column and try 1 column for each row. And we do need them to do 2 columns in order to gauge a good understanding of where their level of understanding is at. You could also fold the paper lengthwise so that students would see all mild questions first and then all the medium questions or all the hot questions, whichever you think would most be beneficial for them. Also, make sure that you have any appropriate manipulatives that might support the students' learning on this particular topic available to students at their desks. And each math entry ticket comes with a number talk. So the purpose behind this number talk, and we strongly advise you to do this with your whole class prior to administering the entry ticket, is to activate prior knowledge on this particular topic, as well as familiarize students with any language that they maybe haven't heard in a year, or models or strategies that they are going to see on the entry ticket, so that we can really gauge where the student's level of understanding is, that it wasn't just like a memory moment where they're like, oh yeah, I remember how to do this, I just haven't done it in a long time. So by all means, make sure that you are doing the number talk. And now, working through these gray slides here, you can see that there will be a link to the tracking sheet and some instructions on what to do with the tracking sheet. Again, there is a tutorial that can help you with that. There will be a link to an activity that early finishers could do. So while the rest of your class is continuing to work on the entry ticket, students who finish already have this task that they can work on. You will print the entry ticket, and then you will administer the entry ticket. Again, students are encouraged to do 1 column and try 1 column. Now, each row in the entry ticket represents one of the criteria that the 6 weeks of intervention will be focusing on. So in this particular entry ticket, row 1 would be addressing ordering fractions, row 2 would be addressing representing fractions, row 3 would be addressing adding and subtracting fractions or multiplying and dividing fractions, depending on which column students use. And that aligns with the tracking sheet. So when you open the tracking sheet, you will see a place where you can record students' level of understanding for ordering fractions, representing fractions, and operations with fractions. This criteria here is what we use to determine the student's level of understanding. So looking at each row, so I'm going to look at row 1 criteria, ordering fractions. I would look across and I would ask myself, was the student able to complete the mild question on their own correctly? If they were not able to complete the mild question on their own, then we would say they are at a level of emerging. Their level of understanding is emerging. If the student was able to complete the mild question correctly on their own, but could not do the medium or the hot, we would say their level of understanding is developing. And if the student was able to correctly complete medium and or hot, doesn't matter which one they choose to do, then we would say their level of understanding is proficient. And then you add that information, you do that for each row, and you add that information into the tracking sheet as outlined here and in the tracking sheet tutorial for you to help determine the groups and students who would benefit from having some small group withdrawal.